Good afternoon. Today's date is 5/29/2020. We're here at the Evansville Wartime Museum, where we have a brand new acquisition called the P-47, and you can see it right out there. It's a fabulous plane made in World War II here at Evansville, 6,200 made. We have a World War II veteran here, Ben Nellis, who's in the camera right now, also a Korean War veteran and a Chosin War veteran. He's going to tell some of his stories. His son is with him. Name?
John
Nellis. John Nellis, and he's going to help us with any questions as well. And then we have a Vietnam veteran here, Mr.
Richard Paul.
Richard Paul, Vietnam veteran, and his bride is Miss Sharon Paul, P-A-U-L. And the person that recruited all this is Jerry Fields. And then this is our local historian from Henderson area, Purdue graduate, master's in history, and your name, sir?
Kevin Reed.
Kevin Reed. So we're going to ask some questions. Kevin will help. All of you can help. But we're going to talk, first of all, Ben, when were you born, and what city were you born in?
When were you born?
I was born. I can talk.
That's all right. Just relax. Just you tell us when he's born. When was he born?
26.
1926. So he's born in 26. So he's a baby for World War II. To get in World War II, you had to be born 26, 27, or earlier, unless you lied about your birth certificate. You got in, and how old were you when you got in World War II? 18? 17?
Well, 19.
19. But he's a young one. What year did you get in? Where did you go to boot camp?
Fort Knox.
Fort Knox. Were you born in Evansville?
Yeah.
Where did you work here during your life in Evansville?
Plastic work.
Ball plastic? As I remember, my childhood, it was ball plastics. Kent Plastics, actually.
Kent Plastics. And Kent Plastics out here by the airport a little bit. But it's, plastics were very popular here in Evansville. So Ben was born in 1926 in Evansville, and then worked at Ball Plastics here in Evansville. Kent Plastics. Remember, plastics were real big in Evansville. So when he came back from the war, that was one of his occupations, probably the main occupation.
Yeah.
Now, so he went to boot camp at Fort Campbell? Knox, okay. Fort Knox, that's over by Louisville. Tell us, was it 6 or 8 weeks of boot camp?
14.
14. And then where did they send you after that?
Oh, no. 7 on boot camp and 7 advanced training.
Okay. And then where'd they send you, Ben?
Where did I go first? I went to Korea.
Japan. Okay, so you went way over to Japan. And so in Japan, tell us what you did in Japan. So this would be 1945, he went to Japan. Tell us where you were in Japan. Kobe?
No.
Out in the water?
I can't think. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I don't. I can't remember.
Okay, well, we're waiting for the invasion of Japan, and then the bomb hit August 6th, and so you didn't have to go, right, into mainland Japan.
No, I went to Japan.
Yes.
And then Japan, I went to Korea.
Then to Korea.
That's
Okay.
the second time around.
Okay. In Japan, did you ever get on shore in Japan after the bomb hit? Do you ever remember any of that, or what did you think about when the atom bomb hit?
Well, it's pretty sad.
Yeah.
I mean, just a little flat city, nothing there.
Did you ever see Nagasaki or Hiroshima? Did you ever see those when you were there?
No,
Yeah.
just, yeah, I don't remember.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, then after that, then we went, they took you over, you can help me because you heard a little bit of it. They took him over to Italy then, right?
And where were you in Italy?
What was it? Trieste.
Trieste?
Trieste.
Yes. Okay.
Is that north or south?
That's northeast.
Northeast. So you were there in occupation of Italy to make sure that everybody's behaving.
No, I was in Brescia. And, well, I can't think of it.
That's all right. You don't have to remember it. But you were up there. You were there for 4 years?
I was all together for 4 years.
Well, did you speak Italian?
Poco.
Poco. Did you like it? Did you get some good vine and good cheese?
Yeah.
So you were there a long time. Did you like Italy when you were there?
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh. Is that near Florence, up by all the culture and stuff, or further
no.
up?
More is on the east.
No, it's up more by Venice.
By
And
Venice
it's on
on
the Yugoslav
Naples.
side.
Yugoslav, is that Naples or the other side? The other
That's
side.
the other side.
Yeah, other side. Okay.
Were you keeping the Yugoslavs and everybody kind of separated?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we were all together. I mean, we were all separated years.
Yeah. So tell us a little about the history of Yugoslavs. I don't know Yugoslavs versus Italian. You could help us.
So the port of Trieste was a big port on the Adriatic Sea. The Italians claimed it, the Yugoslavs claimed it. It originally belonged to the Austro-Hungarian Empire. So in between World War I and World War II, there were a lot of arguments as to who should get Trieste. Italy took over Trieste during World War II, and when they surrendered, the Yugoslavs wanted to take it. So you had a lot of armed Yugoslavs in the area. You also had probably a lot of Italian partisans who were against the Mussolini regime. And then you had U.S. troops trying to disarm the Italians and keeping the Yugoslavs separate. And I think you said at one point there were 5,000 Yugoslav troops,
Yeah.
5,000 U.S. troops, 5,000 French troops,
Italian,
and 5,000 Italians as well.
Nobody was fighting. They were ready to fight, but they didn't fight.
All the time I was in peacetime.
A piece. Did you stay in a barracks or did you get a house?
The what?
Did you stay in a barracks?
Castle.
Castle. Whoa.
Castillo. Castle.
Castillo?
Castillo. This space.
Wow. Was it nice?
Oh, yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah. Okay, then you got out of the service. Where did you get out in the United States? Where did you got out of the service and went into reserves, or what did you do after you got out of there?
I was in the reserves.
Army reserves.
Yeah.
Why'd you sign up for the reserves?
Yeah, that's where I messed up.
There were a lot of Army reserves here in Evansville. A lot of them had to go to Korea. They usually, like in during Vietnam and after Vietnam, a lot of reserves weren't taken. But boy, in Korea, they came to Evansville and got I think 162 reserves for Korea. So you were one of them that got picked up. And then tell us about Korea, when you went, about what year, and when did you leave, and maybe what you saw there at ballpark.
Asked a lot, so I can't remember.
Yeah.
I was in there 50 and 51, so I went in 50.
Yeah. Okay.
Came out 51.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about the Korean War. What year did it go to and what did it end? And then maybe when we brought the troops in, I guess Truman was in charge and MacArthur was in charge for a while.
So the Korean War began in 1950. At the end of World War II, Russian troops occupied the northern part of Korea and established the People's Republic of North Korea, the DPRK, which is what it still is. The U.S. troops went into the southern part of Korea, and Korea was divided at the 38th parallel. In 1950, Korean troops from the North Korea went south to reunify the country under North Korean control. President Truman did not want to see the Russians expand that way, so he went to the United Nations and asked for a declaration of maintaining the independence of South Korea. U.S. troops and UN troops then went in to help fight against the North Koreans. It began in 1950. The Korean War still has not officially ended. Okay? In 1951, major combat operations finally ceased, roughly back at the 38th parallel. And there were negotiations that were ongoing and that are still ongoing, trying to come up with a peace treaty to end the war. But actual military occupations more or less ended in 1951.
So you were there.
All right.
He told the fact. Well, I'm glad he showed up. And Evansville is at the 38th parallel here. And if you go drive on Interstate 69 right by 69 and about Boonville Highway, it says 38th parallel. And we dedicated that about 6 or 8 years ago, Korean War dedication. We also have a Korean War exhibit downtown It has troops carrying or sort of walking with 2 or 3. It has some Army guy and I think a Marine guy. And they also have a new Korean exhibit in Washington, D.C. that's very nice. The troops are about 9 or 10 feet tall. I don't know if they're in bronze or whatever, but they're both Marines and Army, and you can tell them by the uniform difference. But it's people really like to see those exhibits. But ironically, here, Evansville, we're in the 38th parallel. So you're there in 50 and 51. Can you tell us anything you remember about that band?
Gosh, she's in the Army.
Was it cold there?
Oh yeah, it got cold. They had wind. It came in on the Atlantic,
Yes.
and I think the mountains, the mountains are
Yes.
that cold. And warm air went
Yeah.
up this mountain,
Yes.
and back to cold air, and the cold air come back, and we'd have the winds up to 80 miles an hour.
Wow. Because they said it's 30 degrees below Fahrenheit there a lot in Korea. 30 degrees below. I mean, it just frostbite to no end. So in the Chosin Reservoir, which I think 132 reserve troops from Evansville are part of it, and your friend named Mitzeldorf, Clarence Mitzeldorf, he was in there. He was in either the Marines or we gotta be quieter now.
Museum for a while, you know the sounds of them as they're taxiing to take off.
Okay, Duke Paul is his nephew, and he's sitting right there to the left of Ben Nellis.
Brother-in-law.
Okay, brother-in-law. He was in Vietnam War, but tell us a couple of the stories you were saying about, asking about the knife being nailed in. Just tell us what you heard, Duke. The stories, just
his
about
story?
with Nellis, not on Vietnam, on Korea.
Yeah, right. Ben never talked much about for a long, long time, and me, him, and another brother-in-law and I were going down to a wedding in Georgia, and so he talked quite a bit there. One story was I can remember him sending a letter to my father and asking him to send him a throwing knife. So from that, he was in a lot of combat and close combat. Another time, he said God must have been looking out for him because he was riding in a Jeep, on the right-hand side of the Jeep, and for no reason at all, he fell out of the Jeep. And when he fell out of the Jeep, a bullet went right through the windshield.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And
Pay
another
that
story,
angel
I don't know
overtime.
if you want to put this on film or not, but he told another story that he was riding with a captain or somebody, an officer, and they were going up to another unit, and there was a good friend of his was up in that unit. So when they got there, he asked the lieutenant or captain or whatever it was, said, could he go see his buddy? He said, no, you stay in the Jeep. And after that, as they were driving, he said, I hated it so much that I had my gun pointed at his head and come back close to go ahead and shoot him. So that's how the war and what he'd been through affects you, right?
Yeah.
So that's the stories that I remember.
Now his son over here, tell me the story about the cold weather.
Well, he talked about how horribly cold it was, that there were times that he would dig into the snow and make himself a little cave or whatever you want to call it, and crawl in there with his sleeping bag, and he would stay warmer there than if he was bivouacked out
In the air.
out in the air or anything. Yeah, he did that a few times.
Did you ever see a North Korean? Did you ever see a Korean enemy, man?
Yeah.
And
Prisoners.
prisoners.
If it wasn't prisoners, we'd be shooting at each other.
It's the wrong way to see them.
Yeah.
And did your feet get cold or your hands get cold up there in Korea?
Yeah, I got frostbitten feet. I thought I was frozen. But the doctor said, no, she said, frozen, they'd be black. She said, first fitting.
Your feet work all right now? Did they work okay after you
No,
got back?
I still got problems.
Yeah, always
still-
problems from that. Bothered your nerves down there and everything. Some people have that long term.
Yeah, I can't explain it.
Did you, what kind of gun did you use there? Do you remember what kind of gun?
I just did everything they had.
A rifle, and you had a pistol too?
And, 75 millimeter,
Uh-huh.
105s,
Yes.
on down to BB gun.
Did,
Well, in your unit, what job did you have? Were you an infantryman? Were you an artilleryman? A tanker?
I was about the only way I can say is just about everything
Okay.
could be close.
You were cavalry too, weren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a horse. Yeah, I was a horse guy.
yeah.
Yeah. That after the war. I was in Italy.
yeah. Cavalry was big in World War One, but they had it in World War II too. And I guess I didn't know in Korea, but they got it in Korea too. But
I don't think he was in.
No.
It wasn't Korea.
not Korea, but
It was the cavalry when he was over in.
in Italy.
And in the mountains, sometimes that's easier than four-wheel vehicles.
Right.
And the Cholson Reservoir is very famous, or infamous, but a lot of people were trapped in the Cholson Reservoir. They were surrounded by Chinese and North Koreans. Were you trapped for a period of time?
Well, I got over the line where I had to find a way back to get out.
Yeah. So you got trapped. You had to fight your way back.
Oh, yeah.
And they said that a lot of people, they didn't ever think they were going to come back. I think that 10,000 people escaped out of a little narrow area. They had you surrounded, and how you got out of
Oh,
that,
yeah.
we'll never know.
I think there was 20,000.
20,000 were trapped. Most of them got out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they all got it. We all made it.
What do you think about weather after you faced that weather? You've never had that bad of weather in Evansville, have you?
Well, yeah, probably.
Uh-huh.
It got 37 below zero.
Yeah, that's pretty low.
Yeah, but that was, I think, about 3 days.
Just 3 days. Yeah, just 3 days.
Just 3 days.
But do weapons work? I mean, can you fire a weapon at 37 below zero? I mean,
Well,
that's almost-
sometimes you could, and sometimes you couldn't.
wow. That's just incredibly cold.
And any of your machines work, like the Jeeps work or other things. The oil, like if you read about the Barbarossa, the invasion of Stalingrad, it was real cold in Russia in World War II, and the Germans had problems with the machines. Did your Jeeps work and your trucks work over there?
Yeah, most of the time.
Did they? Yeah.
Most times it was too cold.
What kind of uniform did you have? Did you have the right uniform? Do you have wool that keep you warm?
Well, we came in most of that kind of stuff after it was all over with.
When it was over, you got the right stuff. Yeah.
That's not unusual.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions for any of us right now, or any things you'd like to say?
Not necessary.
What do you think, Ben, about our freedom and the next generations? They say freedom, and our freedom is only possibly safe for one generation, but you're a generation that saved us. It's called the greatest generation in World War II and also the Korean War. What do you think about our freedom and the United States?
I never did give it much thought, but it's okay for us, I'm concerned.
Yeah. Well, thank you for all your time today. Does anybody else have other questions?
I just wanted to say, I remember now when he started telling that story about being surrounded, and he said they were surrounded and fighting their way out, and he just thinks God took care of them because he didn't know how they got out of it.
It's considered one of the most unbelievable times in military history. They quoted it every cemetery at Memorial Day, the Chosin Reservoir. The Chosin Reservoir, because there were, he says, 10 to 20,000 troops just trapped. They were encircled. And how they ever got out of there, I'll never know. And, you know, he spoke about it at one time, but it was a very dangerous time, and he's a very lucky person to even be here. And many people in Evansville came back that got out of that, and there were Korean veterans, and not many of them are left today. How old are you today?
94.
94, okay. Well, you're up there. Okay. How about other things?
That's all I can think of right now.
Okay.
I'd just like to say that my dad told me his story many years ago, and Dad was not one that was particularly emotional about telling stories. But when he told the story about what Benny had seen, it truly affected Dad, and he thought very highly of you. He had a lot of respect for you, and for you.
That was your brother. Your
That was
dad's
my
his
dad.
brother. Was his
But
brother.
no. My dad is actually his wife's uncle. They had a pretty large family, but I think they were only about 6 or 7 years apart. His wife and my dad. But he was moved by your story, Benny, and he thought very much of you.
Oh, you mean your dad?
Yeah, my dad thought a lot of you. So, for whatever that's worth.
Now we got another interview here. This is Duke Paul, and Duke Paul was in Vietnam. Duke, when were you born, and when were you recruited to Vietnam, and when did you get in, when did you leave?
I was born on January 23rd, 1940. What was the next question?
Okay, you're born in 40. When did you go to Vietnam?
Went to Vietnam the first time in 1963.
And then the next time, speak up.
Oh, the next time was 1969.
69. So 60 and 69. How long did you stay each time?
11 months each time. That was a tour back then.
And you a ground pounder, Army?
No, I was in communications intelligence.
Okay.
Yeah,
But still in the Army.
still in the Army.
Tell us about your first 11 months. That's the beginning when the French just moved it over to the United States, and that was the first part of our war in 63. Much different than 69, I assume. Tell us what your multiple thoughts about what you thought in 1963 about Vietnam.
At that time, that was my job to go over there and then present it at all or anything. There was a lot of troops that were not, didn't really want to be there. Well, nobody wanted to be there, but it was just another tour of duty.
You were a radio man then?
No, not exactly. We monitored and we'd search for manual transmissions from the enemy, and we'd also have direction finding to locate the enemy. And my particular job there then, we had 5 aircraft in country, 3 de Havilland Otters and 2 F-model Beechcraft, and we'd have an antenna on each wing. The South Vietnamese would have an idea of approximately where a particular unit might be. Of course, we identified a lot of units too, radio transmissions. So they knew approximately where it was, and our aircraft will use it as a direction finder. So we would go up when their particular target came up, they would pipe it up to us in the aircraft, and then we would pipe it up to the pilot. The pilot would have a map on his thigh of that area. So when he got that signal, he'd flatten the aircraft out and go back and forth, and when you got a no south, that's the direction that the radio is. He would take very good pilots. He'd turn the aircraft over, plot his position of where he was, and then we would go around in a circle as long as we could, as long as they transmitted, and come back, and then we would triangulate all of that. That's where it was. These pilots would get them within 100 to 200 meters most of the time.
Wow.
They were fantastic pilots.
Wow.
So that's what I did the first time I was over there.
And then
Tell us about that a little bit. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, from there, then you'd be able to vector in artillery or infantry units to take out the radios.
Right. Well, the Vietnamese, sometimes they'd have American troops with them, sometimes they wouldn't.
Right.
It just depend on the situation, where it was, and so on and so forth.
Tell us about the war in '63. A little bit about '63. That was just the beginning for the United States. We hadn't ramped it up till a little later.
No, we didn't really start sending troops over in large numbers until '65. So before that, we were providing technical assistance and advisory duties. So we weren't actually supposed to be fighting in combat, and so anything you would send off would, in theory.
You couldn't fire somebody unless you were fired upon. So
It was very early in our war over there. Okay, then he went back in '69, so a lot heaped up about '65 or so. Can you tell us about your experience in 19?
the first casualty by hostile fire in Vietnam was the first one killed by hostile fire in Vietnam. Was from our unit.
And what was your unit again?
With the first, we only had a company size first, and it was called the 3rd Radio Research Unit,
Okay.
and then it became the 3rd, the 509th Radio Research Unit.
Okay.
It was larger, several companies.
Battalion.
Battalion.
And that was 1962 or
63.
63.
63.
So do you remember the circumstances of how he was killed? And I remember you telling me that there was a unit of South Vietnamese that did not react,
Well,
or so it was thought.
right. What happened, we used to have, before we had airborne radio direction finding and actual units that had ground type radio direction finding. They had a PRD-1, they call it, and it's a portable. So
Okay.
they would send out a portable here, a portable here, and a porter here, and so they could triangulate when they come up with a signal. Well, Specialist Davis is the one that got killed, but he was with a captain and a driver in a Jeep, and they were going out to the site where they were, first site they were going to. Well, so the story goes that Specialist Davis had a girlfriend.
Okay.
He told his girlfriend where he was going to be going, which was a no-no. So when they approached him, they had 2 Jeeps. When they approached him, Davis was in the front Jeep, and they were quite a ways behind them. And so when he got up there, he got ambushed and shot. And I probably shouldn't tell this, but the captain stayed behind and then turned around and ran. He didn't assist him at all. But he apparently told his girlfriend where he was going to go and that stuff.
And she passed it on to the
Right.
VC, who then set
Right.
up the ambush.
Right.
Okay.
Then one other incident too. We were billeted on Tonsanute Air Base, and they also had like sports. Like we had a team, softball team or whatever it was, and it had a roof over this bleachers and so on and so forth. So some of our people were in the bleachers watching the ball game. Well, it used to be they had Vietnamese on the outer fence watching the ball game. This particular day, there were none out there. And what had happened, the VC had put two 25-pound bombs under the bleachers, blew them up, and killed 2 of our people. But I don't know anything like that or not.
And then why did you get out and then get back in '63 to '69? You just get back in? Were you in the reserves or something?
Oh no, I'm career.
full duty.
Oh, I'm still
you're
active
20 year.
duty.
You're 20 year man.
Yeah, right.
And so you did station in the United States from 63 to 69, then you came back in 69 to 9, right?
Right. I was stationed in Germany, and I was due to rotate back to the States, and I got orders to go to Vietnam again. So
And what part of Vietnam were you in then and experience then?
the second time, I was in charge of the Vietnamese Manual Morse and voice language school on Tonson Air Base.
So teaching
sorry, not
interpreters, teaching interpreters, or
Well, they also monitor voice
okay.
transmission. See? So we were teaching company-sized units to go out into the field and do their work the same as what we did. And I did that for 7 months, and then I went and took one of the company-sized units down to Baku, down south, and so I was an advisor to them down there.
This is a North Vietnamese helmet here. Might hold that up here and just turn it around there. Yeah, so that North Vietnamese, you didn't see too many of those, but we're glad you didn't.
Yeah.
But that's in our collection here. Why don't you hold the gas mask up and show us the gas mask as well, Mr. Paul?
You want me to put it on?
Yeah, well, I don't know. That's a North Vietnamese gas mask. It's probably not very effective, but they were scared of
You want
being
me to put
gassed.
it on?
Yeah, I don't know what's in it. I don't know. Okay, then put that down. Now put that other thing, that thing that shoots a shrapnel. This was, they would have that in the
Bungee
ground.
stakes.
Put them up so we can see them. Bungee stakes, so they would shoot them out of the ground, or you would walk on them, and is that what they
Or spring down on them.
spring on them? Okay. And then show the, put the two shoes up there. They're very innovative. That North Vietnam always wore that. They'd old tires and use those as shoes.
The bottom, turn up.
Turn it upside down.
There
Yeah,
you
there's
go.
tires.
There's the tires.
Okay, and then last thing, show the canteen over there. Yeah, that's a real North Vietnamese, pretty similar to the United States. It's got the star on there, North Vietnamese star. Then hold the uniform up. These guys are pretty small.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even fit in it there, Miss Paul. That's a Vietnamese trousers, and then we've got the shirt here too. It shows you the size of the people,
Oh my gosh.
but they're pretty small compared to
Yes,
us.
they were.
Like teenagers.
Okay, well that's enough for today. We've gone over a lot. We'll let you relax.